I've been sitting here for an hour. I have the report open, I have my coffee, and my brain is just a white wall. Nothing. So I try to focus harder. I tell myself, think, just think. But it feels like I'm pushing against a locked door. What do you do when thinking harder makes the problem worse?
Most people in that situation believe the solution is more effort, more focus. They think the problem is the task, but the problem isn't the task, it's the environment.
The environment? You mean my office? It's quiet, no one is bothering me. It seems like the perfect place to focus.
The perfect place to focus, yes, but maybe not the perfect place to think. We confuse those two things. We think deep work only happens when we are sitting perfectly still, staring at a screen.
Because that's how we've always been taught to work. At a school desk, in an office cubicle, the body is still, so the mind can be active.
And that's a logical assumption, but it often fails us. We treat our brains like a computer processor, believing that giving it one single task will produce the best result. But a human brain isn't a processor, it's a garden. Sometimes to grow something new, you have to walk away from it and let the sun and the rain do their work.
So when I'm stuck, I should just give up? Walk away?
Not walk away to give up, walk away to win.
I think I understand walking for physical health. You track your steps, you feel better, your heart is healthier. It's simple. But you're suggesting something different.
We have been trained to see walking as exercise, a physical task with physical benefits. We measure it in calories burned or kilometers walked.
And that's useful. It motivates people to move.
It does. But it also frames the activity as a chore, another item on the to-do list. And when we are busy or tired, chores are the first things we cut. We think, I don't have time for a walk. I have this urgent mental task to finish.
Right, because the mental task feels more important. It pays the bills.
Exactly. But what if we stopped thinking of it as exercise for the body and started thinking of it as maintenance for the brain? Think about your computer. When it gets slow and unresponsive, what do?
I close all the tabs. Maybe I restart it.
You clear its memory. You give it a moment to reset. A walk does the same for your brain. It's not the main work, but it's the thing that makes the main work possible. It improves your entire cognitive function.
So a walk is like a mental reset button. It clears out the noise.
It does more than that. It doesn't just clear the old thoughts, it creates the space for new ones. I had a client, a designer, who was completely stuck on a logo project for weeks. He was working 12-hour days at his desk, just staring at the same failed designs.
I know that feeling.
I told him to leave his desk every day at noon and walk for 30 minutes. No phone, no music, just walk. The first 2 days he said it was a waste of time. He just felt anxious about the work he wasn't doing. But on the third day, walking by a bridge, he noticed the shape of the shadows. And that simple observation unlocked the entire design. The idea he was trying to force at his desk for 60 hours was just waiting for him, outside.
Okay, the idea of creating mental space makes sense. But when I'm at my desk, I am 100% focused on the problem. I'm giving it all my attention. When I'm walking, my attention is everywhere. I'm looking at trees, cars, people. It feels like my focus is weaker, not stronger.
You're describing the exact reason why it works. We believe that intense, direct focus is the only way to solve difficult problems.
Because if you don't focus, how can you solve anything?
Think of it like trying to see a very faint star in the night sky. If you look directly at it, it disappears. Your eye's most sensitive cells are on the periphery. You have to look slightly away from the star to see it clearly. Intense focus can blind us to the very answer we're looking for.
So you're saying I should think about the problem less?
I'm saying you should hold the problem in your mind more gently. A walk allows for this. The automatic, rhythmic action of walking occupies a part of your brain, but leaves another part free to wander. This state allows different parts of your brain to communicate. It lets you connect ideas that direct focus keeps separate. It doesn't just improve your thinking, it can amplify it.
So my focused mind is trying to solve the problem with logic, like building with bricks, but the walking mind is connecting ideas from everywhere?
Precisely. Your focused mind sees the one path you've been trying that isn't working. Your walking mind sees the entire landscape. The change in perspective is often very subtle.
So it's not a big eureka moment necessarily.
Rarely. It's often a quiet shift. An architect I know was struggling with a building design. He couldn't make the space feel both open and private. He went for a walk in a forest. He wasn't thinking about the problem at all. He was just noticing how the trees created small, private spaces under a huge open canopy. When he got back to his office, the solution was just there, obvious. The walk didn't give him the answer, it prepared his mind to find the answer.
Okay, but there are different kinds of walks. Am I walking to the supermarket? Am I walking to a meeting? Does it matter where I'm going? Because usually when I walk, I have a destination. I'm trying to get somewhere.
That is one of the most common mistakes people make. They believe a walk needs a purpose, a destination.
Because otherwise it feels unproductive, like I'm just wandering.
And our culture tells us that wandering is a waste of time. We need to be efficient, to have a goal for every action, but this thinking quietly fails us when it comes to creative work. If you have a destination, your brain switches into travel mode. It thinks about the best route, the time, the traffic. It's another task.
And that brings back the focused mind we were just talking about.
Yes, you lose the benefit. The true power of a thinking walk isn't in the destination, it's in the motion itself. The simple left-right rhythm of walking has a deep effect on the brain. It's one of the few activities that stimulates both sides of the brain at the same time in a coordinated, balanced way.
So it's the physical act of walking itself that helps generate the ideas?
It creates the conditions for them. The rhythmic movement helps your thoughts to flow instead of getting stuck in a loop. A famous writer once said he couldn't solve a problem in a story by sitting at his desk. He would walk. He called it walking the problem out. He wasn't walking to anywhere. The walk itself was the destination.
So the advice isn't walk to the coffee shop to think. It's just walk.
Exactly. A walk with no destination can feel strange at first, but that feeling of being aimless is actually the goal. It's a signal that your brain is finally switching off from task mode and entering a more creative, open state.
This all sounds good in theory, Sarah. It really does. But I have to be honest, it still feels unrealistic. If I have a deadline in 3 hours and I'm stuck, telling my boss I'm going for a walk for 30 minutes sounds like an excuse. It feels irresponsible. Smart, productive people power through. They work harder. If this is so effective, why don't more people do it? Why do we still believe the answer is always at our desk?
Because the desk feels like the place of work. It's where we measure productivity in hours spent and words typed. A walk produces no immediate, visible output. It feels like a pause. And in our culture, pausing feels like losing.
It does. It feels like I'm falling behind. What if I go for this walk and come back with nothing? Then I've lost 30 minutes and I'm even more stressed.
That's the fear. But it's based on a misunderstanding of how our brains actually work. We have two primary modes of thinking. The first is the focus mode. That's you at your desk, concentrating, analyzing, using your direct attention. It's powerful, but it's also draining and has a narrow view.
Okay, that's my pushing on the locked door mode.
Exactly. The second is the diffuse mode. This is a more relaxed, resting state of mind. It's active when you're not focusing on anything in particular, like when you're taking a shower or when you're walking. This mode is where your brain makes surprising connections in the background. It sees the big picture.
And I can't just turn that mode on whenever I want?
You cannot force it. You can only create the conditions for it to emerge. The focus mode and the diffuse mode are partners. They need each other. You do the focused work at your desk to load the problem into your brain. Then you step away and walk, allowing the diffuse mode to get to work. The walk isn't a break from the work. It's the second essential half of the work process.
So the problem isn't that the walk might not produce an idea. The problem is thinking the walk is supposed to produce an idea on demand.
Precisely. You don't go for a walk to find the answer. You go for a walk to let the answer find you. Sometimes it happens during the walk. More often, it happens 5 minutes after you sit back down at your desk. The walk changed your brain state, so when you returned, you saw the problem with fresh eyes.
So my default way of thinking has been the problem.
Your default, and almost everyone's default, is to believe that all valuable cognitive work happens when we are sitting still and focusing.
But what you're saying is that movement isn't a distraction. It can actually amplify our ability to think, but in a very subtle way that we don't always notice.
It creates the mental environment needed to generate those new connections that focus alone cannot see. It's the other side of the coin.
I've been trying to solve problems using only one half of my brain's toolkit, focusing, then focusing harder, then getting frustrated and focusing even harder.
It's like trying to build a house with only a hammer. You need the saw too. The walk is the saw. It cuts the problem into a new shape so the hammer can work when you get back.
It's strange.
I've always thought of being stuck as a failure of intelligence or effort, a sign that I'm just not good enough for the task.
And now?
It doesn't feel like a personal failure anymore. It just feels like a signal. A signal that I'm using the wrong tool, or that I've been using one tool for too long. The door I was pushing on isn't locked because I'm not strong enough. It's locked because I need a key.
And maybe the key isn't at the desk.
Maybe I just need to stand up and walk to find it.